Every morning you wake up inside a system that began running before you were even born. You dress it up. You call it life. But it's not truly yours. Not in the way you think. You move through the hours, check your phone, respond to the demands, fulfill your obligations, believing this rhythm is natural. That you're choosing it. That your personality, your preferences, even your flaws are part of who you really are. But something feels slightly off. A nagging loop in the background. An invisible presence whispering the same patterns into your thoughts again and again. That's not coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's not even just trauma. It's code. A hidden quantum script written by unconscious programs, fed into your system from birth and disguised as normal life. These programs look like beliefs, feel like instincts, sound like your own thoughts, but they're not coming from a place of power. They were installed, and right now they're running the show. This invisible code determines how far you think you can go, what you believe you deserve, the risks you avoid, and the realities you unconsciously recreate. It's the same code that keeps certain people stuck in poverty no matter how hard they work. The same code that causes cycles of betrayal in relationships. The same code that turns creativity into anxiety and goals into fear-based hesitation. And the wildest part? You never gave it permission. Here's the truth. You are a quantum being capable of rewriting your own experience. But before you can wield that power, you must confront the simulation you've mistaken for reality. You must understand how this code was embedded, how it operates, and how to consciously override it. In this journey, you won't be escaping reality. You'll be dismantling the illusion that's been posing as reality. Over the course of this video, you'll uncover how to spot the embedded programs running beneath your decisions, how to locate the glitches that reveal weak points in the code, how to use simple tools like journaling and affirmation to rewrite limiting beliefs, and how to activate your inner programmer, the part of you that was never coded, never broken, and never asleep. We'll decode how symbols can be used as weapons of transformation, how time itself is not a straight line but a console that can be edited, and how the feeling of being stuck is actually the signal that your operating system is ready to evolve. By the end of this video, you'll have the framework and the tools to stop being a passive character and start becoming the conscious coder of your own quantum script. So let's begin where all simulations begin. In the matrix you didn't even know you were in. Your environment looks stable. Your choices seem personal. Your memories feel concrete. But beneath all that, something else is operating. A hidden layer of data shaping your experience moment by moment. This is the matrix, not just a cinematic metaphor, but a symbol for the invisible infrastructure of belief, perception, and identity. This isn't a grid of wires and machines. This is a system made of assumptions. Assumptions about what's possible, who you are, and what life is supposed to be. And these assumptions are not passive. They're scripts, executable code that influences how you interpret reality and how reality responds to you. Quantum physics has already proven that matter behaves differently when observed. Consciousness doesn't just react to reality. It interacts with it, shapes it, generates outcomes based on internal expectation. This means your beliefs aren't abstract, they're causative. They carry frequency. They modify probability. But here's the catch. Most people aren't generating those beliefs intentionally. They're recycling inherited ones. From the moment you were born, you began absorbing the data of your environment. Emotional tones, social roles, reactions, definitions of success, failure, love, and shame. This wasn't learning. It was imprinting. Your nervous system recorded the recurring patterns of behavior, language, and meaning, then coded them into your operating system as rules for survival. By age 7, most of your foundational scripts were already installed. You just didn't know it, because the matrix doesn't declare itself. It whispers through repetition. Think of it like a virtual reality headset. You're wearing it all day, every day. You don't notice it because it was placed on your consciousness early enough to feel like part of you. But it's not you. It's a lens, a filter. And it determines which doors you see as open, which people you trust, and which dreams you unconsciously delete before even trying. Some call it conditioning. Others call it programming. Either way, it works the same way code works in a game. It defines the rules of interaction. You touch this, you get burned. You ask for that, you're rejected. You stay small, you're safe. Beliefs become laws, and those laws go unquestioned. But now the glitch is starting to show. Maybe you've noticed the loop, same kind of partners, same kind of problems, different faces. Maybe you've felt the tension between what you want and what your reality seems to allow. That tension isn't failure. It's a signal. It's the code resisting change. Because the system is designed to preserve itself. Here's where quantum consciousness flips the story. Unlike a rigid machine, the quantum field responds to conscious intent. It doesn't just run on what's true. It runs on what's believed. And that means once you start questioning the code, it weakens. It starts to rewrite, like cracking open a console in a game and altering the back-end logic. But it starts with one realization. You are not the script. You are the scripter. And the first step to reclaiming that role is identifying where the matrix still has you on autopilot. Where you're reacting instead of choosing. Where the world feels fixed instead of flexible. And where your potential has been falsely limited by outdated programming. To start, begin noticing the repeating patterns in your life. Not the surface events, but the emotional templates beneath them. Where do you feel trapped? What roles do you keep replaying? Where do you shrink, hesitate, or sabotage? These aren't random flaws. They're results of code. And that means they can be rewritten. Next, we're going to uncover exactly how these beliefs got installed in the first place. How your early experiences became executable programs. And why the real story of your life began before you even understood what a story was. Your current patterns didn't start last year. They didn't begin when that relationship ended, or when the job didn't work out, or when you missed that opportunity. They started much earlier. Long before you had the language to question them. To understand how the quantum code was installed, you have to look at childhood, not as a nostalgic past, but as a live programming environment. Because during those early years, your mind wasn't filtering reality. It was absorbing it, completely open, highly sensitive, recording without editing, every tone of voice, every facial expression, every punishment and reward. All of it was input. And over time, this input formed conclusions that didn't come from wisdom, but from instinct and survival. These conclusions became beliefs, and those beliefs became law. You didn't need to be told directly that you were unworthy. You just had to be ignored often enough for your brain to assign that meaning. You didn't need to be yelled at every day to believe the world was unsafe. A few unpredictable outbursts were enough to trigger a core directive. Stay small, avoid attention, and don't trust your impulses. These responses weren't conscious. They were automatic. Your nervous system made sense of the chaos by encoding protective rules. But those rules were never questioned because at that age, you didn't have the ability to step outside of your experience. You were the experience. And so the code took root. Beliefs like, I don't matter unless I perform. Love has to be earned. It's dangerous to speak up. People always leave. I must stay quiet to survive. None of these are facts. But your body recorded them as if they were. This early programming doesn't just influence your feelings. It directs your perception of time, people, opportunity, and potential. Like a lens installed over your awareness, it filters every choice you make, long before the conscious mind gets involved. It's why two people can walk into the same room and have completely different experiences. One sees support, the other sees threat. One sees opportunity, the other sees competition. They're not reacting to the room, they're reacting to the code running in the background. Here's where it gets more complex. Your early environment didn't just install beliefs about yourself. It also encoded beliefs about reality itself. If you were constantly told not to get your hopes up, your system learned that high expectations are dangerous. If your caregivers struggled with money, your system concluded that abundance is rare and hard-earned. If you were praised for being quiet, compliant, or emotionally self-sufficient, your code now treats vulnerability as a weakness. And because these lessons were internalized during a period of heightened neuroplasticity, they became automated. Meaning you don't think these things, you are these things. Or so it seems. This is the trap of unconscious programming. It doesn't announce itself. It just feels like who you are. But this entire structure rests on one flawed assumption: that the conclusions made during childhood are still valid in the present. They're not. They were formed by a limited version of you with a limited set of choices. You're not that child anymore, but the code doesn't know that until you tell it. Which brings us to a powerful truth: beliefs can be reprogrammed. But before you can do that, you must become radically honest about which ones are still running. And you must accept that many of your current frustrations, self-doubt, hesitation, self-sabotage, aren't signs of failure. They're symptoms of outdated code. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to update your operating system. Start by tracing the beliefs back to their origin. Whenever you feel blocked, ask, when did I first feel this? What conclusion did I make at that moment? Whose voice does this belief sound like? You may be surprised to find that the belief you've carried your entire adult life, about being too much or not enough or never safe, came from a single event. A glance, a silence, a misinterpreted reaction from someone who didn't know how to handle their own pain. Once you locate the source, the code begins to loosen, because the adult version of you can bring logic, perspective, and compassion to places where there was once only fear. This is where journaling becomes essential. You're not just reflecting, you're debugging. You're catching old scripts in action and holding them up to the light. You're reevaluating the terms you agreed to under duress. And you're rewriting. A simple but powerful process to begin with: identify the belief, question its origin, recognize the emotion that reinforces it, replace it with a consciously chosen alternative. Reinforce the new belief through repetition and action. For example, the old code might say, I'm only safe if I'm invisible. Your new line might be, my presence is powerful and I choose to be seen. Every time you say that with intention, you're laying down new neural pathways. You're updating the internal software. Don't expect the old code to vanish overnight. The stubborn, it will resist. It will whisper reasons why you should stay in the familiar discomfort. But discomfort isn't danger. It's just the feeling of change. And every time you choose the new belief, despite the old fear, you send a new signal to the quantum field. A signal that says, I'm not who I was programmed to be. I'm who I choose to become. Now that you understand where the code came from, it's time to learn how it hides in the most deceptive ways, under the disguise of logic, identity, and even intuition. Because before you can break the rules of the game, you have to recognize where the rules are still silently operating. You're not just navigating external reality. You're navigating a maze of internal rules so deeply embedded, they've disguised themselves as truth. These rules don't show up labeled programming. They show up as instincts, gut feelings, habits, preferences. They hide behind phrases like, that's just how I am, or that's just life. But they're not natural. They're installed. This is how the quantum code keeps its grip, by pretending to be your own voice. The mind loves familiarity. Once it learns a pattern, it sticks to it, even if the pattern is toxic, limiting, or false. This is called cognitive efficiency. Your brain would rather conserve energy by recycling an old response than create a new one. So once a belief takes root, especially if it's emotionally charged, it gets automated, stored, turned into default code. That's how programming survives. Through repetition, through feelings that seem obvious, through thoughts that play in the background without ever being questioned. It might sound like, people like me never get ahead. Things fall apart when I get too happy. I'm not good at relationships. I can't trust anyone. There's never enough. Dreams like that are for other people. These beliefs don't arrive labeled as false. They arrive with emotional evidence. You remember the time you failed, the time someone betrayed you, the moment you were humiliated or overlooked, and your brain connects the dots. See, that's just the way it is. But that evidence is often just a reflection of the code itself. You're not remembering random experiences. You're remembering the ones that match the script. This is called confirmation bias. Once a belief is in place, you'll unconsciously filter reality to match it. You'll notice people who prove it. You'll ignore signs that challenge it. You'll attract situations that validate it. And every time you do, the code strengthens. But that validation is artificial. It's not proof. It's projection. You're not just observing the world. You're shaping it with your internal data. And that means until the data changes, the output stays the same. That's how the code hides in plain sight. It doesn't just whisper in your head. It wears the face of your culture, your religion, your education, your identity. It shows up in the systems you trust, the media you consume, the expectations you inherit. It tells you what's normal, what's realistic, what you're allowed to want. And when you start to question that, the system pushes back. Not because it's evil, but because it's designed to maintain itself. You start to say, I want more. And the code says, don't be greedy. You say, I want to change careers. And the code says, that's irresponsible. You say, I deserve love. And the code pulls up memories of every time you were rejected. This is the firewall. It's not made of logic. It's made of emotion. The feeling of fear, doubt, or guilt when you challenge a belief, that's not intuition. That's resistance from the installed code. But now you have a way to expose it. Start paying attention to internal friction. The moments where something in you wants to expand, but another part shuts it down. That shutdown response? That's a clue. That's a hotspot in the matrix. That's where the code is active. A simple exercise. When you feel blocked or triggered, pause. Ask yourself, what belief just got activated? Where did I first learn that? Who benefits from me keeping this belief alive? Sometimes the answers will be obvious. Sometimes they'll be buried. But the more you practice observing instead of reacting, the clearer the patterns become. Here's another trick the code uses. It hides inside your identity. I'm just not a confident person. I've always been a perfectionist. I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. These aren't personality traits. They're defenses. Masks worn by the code to avoid change. Identity is one of the most powerful structures the mind clings to. Because if you change who you believe you are, the entire system has to reorganize. That feels threatening. So the code protects the identity, even when it's keeping you small. But true transformation only begins when you stop protecting the code. When you stop defending the old stories. When you realize that the voice saying you can't was never really yours. It was just the loudest voice you heard growing up. Here's the breakthrough. If the belief isn't yours, you don't owe it loyalty. You're allowed to question it. You're allowed to reject it. You're allowed to replace it with a new story, one that reflects the reality you want, not the reality you inherited. That new story starts not with evidence, but with choice. That's where tools like affirmations become useful, not as magical thinking, but as code entries. When repeated with feeling and focus, affirmations aren't lies. They're instructions. You're telling the quantum field how to organize itself. You're telling your brain what patterns to favor. You're planting new defaults. But it only works when you speak them louder than the voice of the old script. Affirmation without awareness is empty. Affirmation combined with observation, intention, and action, that's how code changes. You've seen now how the matrix was installed. You've seen how it pretends to be truth. You've seen how it hides inside your emotions, your memories, your voice. Now it's time to start looking for the weak spots, the cracks, the glitches, because wherever something keeps repeating, wherever your outcomes keep circling back to the same frustration. That's not just bad luck. That's a break in the simulation, and it's where the real change begins. Look closely at your life and you'll start to see it. The pattern that loops, the situation that repeats, the feeling that never quite goes away. These aren't random. They're not coincidences. They're not just personality traits or karmic debts. These are the glitches. Glitches are the places where reality slips, where the outcome doesn't match your intention, where you say you want love, but end up with distance, where you work hard for success, but end up with exhaustion, where you chase freedom, but find yourself trapped in cycles that feel strangely familiar. A glitch is not failure. It's a feedback mechanism. It's the code revealing itself. It's the simulation stuttering, showing you the invisible script playing beneath your conscious desire. Start paying attention to where effort and result don't align. Where things seem stuck despite all your awareness. That's where the code is overriding your conscious mind. And that's where your most powerful opportunities lie. Glitches show up in different forms. Emotional repetition. Recurring feelings of abandonment, rejection, guilt, or scarcity. Situational loops. Repeated dynamics in relationships, career stalls, financial instability. Internal contradictions. Wanting something deeply but pushing it away once it arrives. Each one is like a red flag in the system. A moment when the programming becomes visible. Here's an example. You say, I want to be seen and appreciated. But every time someone offers attention or praise, you minimize yourself, deflect, or withdraw. That's a glitch. Your conscious desire is being short-circuited by unconscious code, likely installed during a time when visibility felt dangerous or shameful. These contradictions aren't just frustrating. They're informative, because every glitch holds a blueprint for decoding the belief behind it. The process begins with awareness, not analysis. Don't try to fix the glitch immediately. First, witness it, track it, ask questions without needing immediate answers. Start journaling these moments as if you're a software tester debugging a system. Create a page titled, Current Glitches in the System, and then list them. I keep attracting emotionally unavailable partners. I self-sabotage when things go well. I avoid money conversations. I get anxious when I rest. Write down what triggers each glitch, what you feel right before and after, what thought surfaces in that moment. This isn't about blame. It's about visibility. The more you observe, the more patterns will emerge. And you'll start to notice something powerful. These glitches cluster around core beliefs. Not hundreds of beliefs, but a small handful of primary scripts usually formed early on. One script might say, love means I disappear. Another, safety comes from control. Another, my needs are a burden. And these scripts generate patterns that repeat because they're still being broadcast into the quantum field as instructions. This is where journaling becomes more than reflection. It becomes code analysis. Every glitch is a chance to reverse engineer your beliefs. Let's say your glitch is, I always freeze when I speak in groups. Trace it. What emotion arises? Fear. What story follows? They'll think I'm stupid. What does that lead to? Silence, withdrawal, regret. What belief is underneath? My voice isn't safe. That's the belief. That's the code. And now you've found it. The next step is to challenge it, not with logic alone, but with action. Choose micro-challenges that interrupt the pattern. If the glitch tells you to stay silent, speak. Just once, even briefly. If the glitch tells you to withdraw, lean in. If the glitch says don't try, do the opposite. Why? Because action is code override. It's not about perfection. It's about disruption. Every time you do something the old belief wouldn't allow, you weaken the old circuit and build a new one. But here's a critical key: you must feel safe enough to try. That's why pairing these actions with regulation tools, like breathwork, body awareness, or grounding exercises, makes the override stick. The goal is not to fight your fear, but to hold it while choosing differently. That's how new data enters the nervous system. There's also power in declaring the glitch out loud. Speak it like this: I see the pattern. I recognize the loop. I don't need this script anymore. I choose a new response. You're not just making affirmations. You're speaking a new command into the system. And the system is always listening. Another way glitches reveal themselves is through timing. Ever notice how, just as something good starts to happen, something disruptive follows? A self-created drama, a forgotten obligation, a sudden wave of doubt. That's not the universe punishing you. That's the code reaching for equilibrium. The glitch is a protection mechanism, triggered by unfamiliar states like success, intimacy, or peace. These states feel threatening only because they contradict the code's version of what's normal. So the glitch is a callback to safety. Even if that safety is miserable, it's still known. Here's how to respond. Recognize the glitch as a signal of progress. Don't resist it. Don't fear it. Thank it. Then consciously choose a new response. Instead of shrinking, breathe. Instead of running, stay. Instead of doubting, affirm. This is the practice of conscious glitch detection. And the more you do it, the more you reclaim control. Soon, patterns that once felt automatic begin to slow. Loops weaken. Familiar triggers lose their grip. Because you're no longer a character reacting to code. You're the observer correcting it. You're the coder. In the next part, we're going to explore the exact tools you can use to rewrite that code, tools that act like keystrokes in the system. You'll learn how journaling, inner dialogue, and affirmations can turn your old scripts into raw data, ready to be rewritten. Because now that you can see the matrix, the power to change it is finally yours. You've spotted the glitch. You've traced the pattern. You've begun to recognize the hidden code that's been steering your choices from the background. Now comes the pivotal step, the one that shifts you from passive awareness into active authorship. Debugging. Think of this as opening up your internal console and locating the exact lines of code that have been looping for years. But this isn't a cold mechanical process. This is emotional, intuitive, and deeply personal. Because the code isn't just data. It's your life story, written through distorted beliefs and inherited fears. The most effective debugging method starts with one simple tool: journaling. Not journaling for memory, journaling for diagnosis. You're not capturing events. You're capturing the system behind the events. And that means your entries aren't just summaries. They're audits. Start by choosing a recent trigger, a moment when you felt overwhelmed, afraid, stuck, small, or rejected. Don't analyze it yet. Just describe it in raw emotional terms. Once it's on the page, ask yourself, what emotion did I feel? What belief got activated? What part of me was trying to protect me in that moment? Now go deeper. What does this part believe is true about me? What would it rather I do instead of grow? What's the payoff of staying in this loop? Answer without judgment. Let the subconscious speak. This is where the hidden logic of the code reveals itself. Maybe the belief is, if I succeed, I'll lose connection. Maybe it's, if I change, I'll be rejected. Maybe it's, if I speak up, I'll be punished. These are not rational. They are ancient, and they are powerful. Once you've named the belief, you move to the reframe. But not just by telling yourself it's false. That rarely works. The old code doesn't respond to arguments. It responds to repetition, emotion, and experience. That's why we use affirmations not as a wish, but as new input, intentional commands that rewire the code through focused language. Here's the formula. 1. Identify the belief. I'm not safe when I'm visible. 2. Acknowledge its purpose. This belief was trying to protect me when I was small. 3. Introduce new input. It's now safe for me to be seen. My voice brings connection, not danger. Repeat this while journaling. Speak it aloud. Feel it in your body. Write it as if you're encoding it into your operating system, because that's exactly what you're doing. But this isn't just mental. You must also interrupt the physical responses that are tied to the belief. That's where somatic awareness becomes crucial. When a glitch is triggered, notice your breath, your posture, your muscles. Are you tightening, shrinking, holding tension in your stomach or chest? These physical responses are part of the code. They must be released along with the thought. Try this. Inhale slowly, expanding your chest. Exhale with sound, a sigh, a hum, a whispered release. Place a hand on your heart or solar plexus. Speak the new affirmation while breathing. I am safe to expand. I am safe to take up space. I am rewriting this now. This combination of language, breath, and touch tells your system. New script in progress. Here's another tool, inner dialogue scripting. This technique involves a written back and forth between the coded self and the conscious self. Start a journal page like this. Coded self. I'm afraid if I try again, I'll fail. Conscious self. You failed before and survived. What if this time it works? Coded self. But people will judge me. Conscious self. And some may not. Are you willing to let fear choose your path? You keep going until the fear voice starts to soften, and a new voice, the voice of clarity, begins to emerge. That's your true self, the one rewriting the program. You can even assign names or symbols to these voices, old code and new code. Treat them like parts of your internal council. You are the moderator, the coder, and the final decision maker. This practice is powerful because it externalizes the battle. Instead of feeling trapped in thought, you see the script unfold, line by line, and you claim authorship. Now, affirmations and journaling will only take you so far unless you act. Action is the confirmation to the field that the new belief is active. If your affirmation is, "I speak my truth freely," then your code override is pressing send on that message you've been avoiding. If your affirmation is, "I allow abundance in," then your override is saying yes to the opportunity, even if it scares you. If your affirmation is, "I deserve rest," then your override is actually taking the day off, without guilt. The formula is this: recognition, reframing, repetition, response. This is how code gets replaced. And the key is consistency. You can't run new code once and expect the system to overhaul itself. This is daily practice, daily debugging. Not because you're broken, but because the code is persistent. Each morning, choose one belief to rewrite, one thought to challenge, one action that your old self would have avoided. Write it down, speak it, breathe it, act on it. Eventually, the code starts to bend. The patterns shift. The outcomes change. Not by chance, by conscious override. Now that you've learned how to debug, it's time to meet the one behind the keyboard. The part of you that's always been watching, always been guiding, and never truly asleep. This next piece is not about thinking your way out of the system. It's about connecting to the intelligence that exists beyond the code, the one that was never programmed and never afraid. You've seen the matrix. You've tracked the glitches. You've started rewriting the scripts. But who exactly is doing the rewriting? What part of you has the authority to override beliefs that have governed your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors for years? To truly escape the quantum code, you must become something more than just aware. You must make contact with the one inside you who was never programmed to begin with. Your inner programmer. This part of you is not a personality. It's not your ego. It's not the voice that criticizes or analyzes. It's not even the voice that motivates or inspires. It's the one that observes, quietly, without judgment, from behind the noise. The witness, the consciousness that existed before the code. The presence that remains even when your thoughts race, your emotions spike, or your reality contracts. This is the real you, the one the system can't reach. In spiritual terms, some call this the higher self, the soul, or the observer. In quantum terms, it's the point of consciousness not entangled with form. It doesn't play the game. It watches the game. And when accessed fully, it can rewrite the game. So how do you connect with it? Not by force, not by study, but by presence. Stillness is the doorway. Begin by sitting quietly, eyes closed, free from distractions. Let the thoughts come. Don't resist them. Don't follow them. Just notice them, like lines of code appearing on a screen. You are not the lines. You are the screen, the space in which the data appears. Now breathe, slowly, intentionally. Inhale, hold, exhale, repeat. As you breathe, shift your attention away from thoughts and into awareness itself. The silent noticing, the watcher. This may feel subtle at first, like nothing is happening, but stay there. Begin to say silently, I am the awareness of these thoughts. I am the space in which emotions rise and fall. I am the observer, not the program. Each breath deepens the connection. This is not an exercise in avoiding life. This is training, because when you hold this inner posture, you start living from the source of choice, rather than from the reactions of programming. Now bring in a visualization. See yourself sitting at a console, a sleek panel filled with lines of code representing beliefs, emotions, reactions. Some flicker with urgency, some lie dormant, some blink with warning. But you, the observer, are calm. You see the patterns. You see the possibilities. You're not overwhelmed. You're in command. One line reads, "I'm not capable." You highlight it. Delete. Replace. "I grow stronger every day." Another, "I'm always alone." You pause. Breathe. Then rewrite, "I attract deep, conscious connection." This is symbolic, yes, but symbols influence the subconscious far more effectively than facts. Your inner programmer works in symbols, in vision, in energy. Every time you connect with this self through meditation, visualization, or even breath, you weaken the false identity built by the code. You realize you've never been the wounded child, the struggling adult, or the helpless victim. You've played those roles. But the one who's been watching all along, that's you. That's the source of your power. Here's something crucial to understand. Your inner programmer doesn't need to believe in the new story to begin writing it. It only needs access. And that access begins with permission. You give it permission when you stop fighting the old code and start observing it. Not with resistance, but with curiosity. You give it permission when you ask questions like, who is it that's thinking this thought? What else could be true? Is this belief based on my current self or my old programming? These questions don't just interrupt the loop. They activate the observer. They turn your awareness into a lens of transformation. Over time, you begin to feel a difference. You respond to stress with clarity. You spot limiting beliefs before they take hold. You feel more solid, centered, and sovereign in your body. This is not because the world has changed. It's because you've changed where you're operating from. Instead of living inside the code, you're coding from the outside. And now you're ready for advanced tools that go beyond language and logic. Tools that reach the subconscious directly. Tools that use symbols as signals to unlock deeper layers of consciousness. In the next part, you'll learn how to create and use these symbolic inputs to influence the structure of your inner world. You'll discover how certain images, shapes, and visual sequences can be used not just for decoration, but as portals for reprogramming your mind. Because once the observer becomes the programmer, the system itself becomes flexible. Your logical mind wants facts, proof, steps, but the subconscious? It responds to something entirely different. It responds to symbols, images, metaphors, shapes that carry meaning deeper than language. This is the language of the quantum code. If the subconscious is the operating system, symbols are its commands. Think about it. Long before you had words, you understood the world through images. Parent's face, a gesture, a sound. Before logic arrived, meaning was felt, not explained. That same system is still running. And if you want to influence the code at its deepest level, you must speak its native language. That's where symbolic hacking begins. This isn't mysticism. It's precision. And it starts with a simple principle. The subconscious doesn't care whether something is true. It only cares whether something is repeated and emotionally charged. So when a symbol is paired with belief and emotion, it becomes a portal, an access point to new wiring. Let's break this down into something practical. Begin by selecting an area of your life where the code still feels locked. Relationships, health, wealth, expression. Identify the primary block. Now translate that block into a symbol. Let's say the belief is, I'm not safe being seen. You might represent that with a small, dim flame, flickering, hiding. Now imagine the opposite. The energy of visibility, confidence, power. What symbol captures that? Maybe it's a sun, a bright eye, a lion, a crown, a light-filled doorway. Choose the one that feels electric in your body, not just impressive in your mind. Once you have it, this becomes your new key. You're not just thinking differently. You're imprinting that symbol into your subconscious as a replacement pattern. Next, anchor it. Draw it. Wear it. Visualize it during breath work. Use it as a screen background. Tattoo it if you must. The goal is constant exposure with emotional reinforcement. Each time you engage with the symbol, pair it with an affirmation. I am seen. I am strong. I speak with clarity and power. This is the real me rising. Feel it. Don't fake it. Feel the nervous system respond. That tension, that's the old code resisting. Good. You're pressing against the firewall. Keep pressing. The subconscious absorbs more from 1 minute of emotional visualization than from hours of dry logic. Use that. Design your own symbolic rituals. A few examples. The mirror ritual. Stand in front of a mirror. Place your symbol drawn or visualized on your chest. Speak your chosen phrase aloud. Slowly. Hold eye contact with yourself. Repeat until the feeling shifts from resistance to resonance. The fire ritual. Write down an old belief on paper. Fold it. Burn it safely. While watching it dissolve, visualize your chosen symbol taking its place, expanding in the space that the old code used to occupy. The seal ritual. When you complete something that once triggered fear, sending a message, showing up visibly, setting a boundary, pause. Draw or visualize your symbol, and say aloud, "New code sealed." This closes the loop with conscious reinforcement. These practices may seem small, but they're incredibly effective, because you're no longer speaking only to the rational mind. You're speaking to the part of you that builds identity, and identity shapes reality. Symbols work because they bypass the critical filter. That filter, the part that says, "This is silly" or "This won't work," is just another part of the code trying to stay in control. Symbols go around that filter. They don't need permission. This is why so many ancient systems, alchemy, magic, sacred geometry, mythology, are filled with visual language. They understood what modern science is only now beginning to confirm. That consciousness doesn't only interpret reality, projects it, creates patterns from the meanings it carries. Meaning is encoded through symbol, and when you change the symbol, you change the code. Here's something deeper. You can also assign symbols to specific emotions. Anxiety might be a cracked glass. Confidence, a steady mountain. Shame, a tangled root. Freedom, an open sky. Each time an emotion arises, don't fight it. Visualize the symbol, then consciously shift it. See the cracked glass become whole. See the tangled root grow upward, sprouting light. This is metaphor in action. This is transformation at the level of imagery. Combine this with breath, movement, or even sound, and your body will begin to associate the new symbol with the desired state. Over time, your nervous system responds before you speak. That's how deep this goes. Eventually, you'll be able to walk into a difficult situation, silently activate your symbol, and feel your energy shift instantly. Because the subconscious will recognize it as a new default, a new authority. And this isn't just inner work. It affects the outer field. The quantum field responds to coherence. When your inner symbols match your outer actions, reality adapts. People treat you differently. Opportunities shift. Patterns break. Because you're no longer broadcasting the old vibration. You've changed the transmission. You're not decorating your consciousness. You're rewriting its language. That's what it means to hack the code with symbols. And now that you know how to bypass the gatekeepers of the subconscious, it's time to challenge the gatekeeper of reality itself. Next, we'll look at the illusion of time, the false sense of linearity that keeps you stuck in cause and effect. You'll learn why the past and future are not fixed, and how the present is the only console from which you can access and rewrite your entire timeline. You've been taught that time is a straight line, past behind you, future ahead of you, and you, trapped in the middle, moving through it 1 second at a time. But that model isn't accurate. It's not how time actually behaves, and it's certainly not how consciousness interacts with it. Time isn't a road, it's a field, and when you access the code that runs beneath it, you realize something shocking. Your past is not fixed, and your future is not waiting. They're both alive, editable, reactive to your state of awareness right now. Here's what most people miss. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between memory, imagination, or real-time experience. If you revisit a painful moment and feel the same emotion again, your body thinks it's happening now. If you visualize a future event with enough clarity and emotion, your nervous system begins adapting to it as if it's already real. That's not wishful thinking. That's neuroplasticity. It means you can send new instructions into both past and future, not by rewriting history or fortune-telling, but by shifting the energetic signature you associate with those events. This is timeline work, and it starts in the present. The present moment isn't just where you exist. It's where all power resides. Every belief you carry from the past is being activated now. Every fear about the future is being imagined now. The only time the code is running is now. So if you want to change it, here is where it happens. First, let's talk about the past. You were taught to think of your past as unchangeable. But your relationship to your past is changeable, radically. And when you shift that relationship, the impact of the past on your present reality dissolves. Here's how. Close your eyes. Bring up a memory that still holds charge, shame, anger, fear. Don't analyze it. Just hold it like a photograph. Now do something different. Breathe into it. Step outside of the old version of yourself. See the scene from the viewpoint of your present self. The observer, the programmer. Now speak directly to that younger version. You survived. You adapted. You did the best you could. And I see you now. This isn't spiritual fluff. This pattern interruption. You're removing the emotional energy that fuels the old belief. You're rewiring the neural pathway associated with that memory. Now let the image change. Turn the scene black and white. Shrink it. Float it away. Watch it dissolve into static. You're not erasing the event. You're removing its power over you. You're reclaiming authorship of your timeline. And now on to the future. Most people use their imagination to rehearse disaster. They project worst-case scenarios, fear-based predictions, and imagined rejections. Then they wonder why their body feels anxious and their reality reflects resistance. But imagination is not entertainment. It's instruction. If you feed the quantum field images of uncertainty, doubt, and fear, it will echo those frequencies back. Not because it punishes you, but because it's responding to your signal. So you must learn to send a new one. Start by choosing one desired future state. Not a fantasy. A possibility that aligns with the version of you you're becoming. Now feel it. Don't think it. Feel it. What does it feel like in your body to live that reality? What do you see around you? What do you hear? What emotion fills your chest? This is not pretend. This is alignment. You are collapsing a possible future into the present by resonating with its frequency. Do this daily. Let it become a ritual. Call it timeline installation. Step 1, choose the reality. Step 2, anchor the emotion. Step 3, visualize it vividly. Step 4, act today as if it's already in motion. This is not fake it till you make it. This is code it till it activates. And yes, the old code will push back. It will remind you of all the reasons this new timeline is unlikely. That's not proof of failure. That's the debug process in action. Don't argue. Just return to the practice. Return to the feeling. Return to now. Because now is the only time you ever actually shift anything. When you heal a past moment in the now, you collapse the charge that's been influencing your current behavior. When you install a future emotion in the now, you send instructions forward into the field. The quantum responds. Always, but only when the signal is consistent. This is why so many people feel stuck. They visit the future with hope, then return to the past with doubt. The signal gets scrambled. The timeline never stabilizes. Your job is to stabilize it. Feel the new reality with clarity and conviction. Speak from it. Move from it. Make decisions as if it's inevitable. Not because you're faking confidence, but because you understand how the code responds. The timeline you feed the most energy becomes the one you live. And now that you've started to shift time from linear to dynamic, you're ready to confront the most powerful technique of all, glitching on purpose. The conscious act of interrupting the system with unexpected behavior. The practice of breaking routine to signal to the universe and to yourself that the old program no longer applies. Because once you challenge the rhythm of the system, you create space for something new to arrive. By now you've seen how the code was installed. You've tracked it, questioned it, rewritten pieces of it. You've even challenged the illusion of time itself. But the code doesn't just live in your thoughts, it lives in your behaviors, your rituals, your micro-decisions, the things you do automatically without thinking twice. This is where the old system hides, in routine. And if you want to truly break the quantum code that's been silently shaping your life, you have to do something radical. Something that seems small but has enormous impact. You have to glitch on purpose. This means acting against the code. Not in rebellion, not in rage, but in clear, intentional disruption. You're interrupting patterns that were installed without your permission, by doing something they were never designed to handle, conscious choice. Most people live in loops, not because they want to, but because their system is wired for predictability. Predictability equals safety in the mind's original language. And the subconscious is programmed to repeat what feels familiar, even if it's painful. But familiarity is not truth. It's just repetition. So if you always pause before speaking your mind, if you always say yes when you mean no, if you always talk yourself out of applying, asking, or initiating, you're in a loop, and the way out is through disruption. Intentional, deliberate, real. Glitching on purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to overhaul your whole life in one act. In fact, the most powerful disruptions are subtle, because they target the core program running underneath the behavior. Let's say the old code says, don't take up space. The glitch? Walk into the room first. Take the front seat. Hold eye contact longer than usual. Speak a little louder than feels comfortable. Don't explain yourself. Each time you do this, even slightly, your system notices. The code pauses. The loop stutters. The old pattern no longer runs unchallenged. That pause? That's freedom cracking through. You've created a moment where something new can happen. Here's another one. If the code says, rest is lazy, then the glitch is taking a break anyway without earning it. Sitting in silence. Saying no without explanation. Letting yourself be still in a world that worships burnout. When you do this, guilt will likely surface. That's expected. That's the code throwing up red flags. But those feelings aren't proof that you're wrong. They're proof that the override is working. You're confusing the system, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Here's how to practice this strategically. Step 1. Identify the pattern. What behavior feels reflexive? What reaction shows up without your permission? Step 2. Trace the belief. What's the silent message beneath that behavior? Don't be too loud. Play it safe. You'll be rejected. Identify it. Step 3. Choose the opposite action. Small, simple, precise, just enough to send a new signal. Step 4. Execute the glitch. Do it. Not with apology. Not with overthinking. Just do it. Step 5. Anchor the shift. Breathe. Acknowledge what you did. Say aloud or write down. This is the new code now. Do this daily. One micro glitch at a time. Over time, these small disruptions snowball into a massive shift in identity. Because you're not just doing something new. You're becoming someone new. The old system runs on survival. You're replacing it with creation. Every glitch weakens the grip of the past. Every act that defies the default lays a new track in the brain, a new groove in the field, a new potential in the system. This is why discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's confirmation. The nervousness before you speak up, that's the threshold of transformation. The awkwardness when you receive praise instead of deflecting, that's growth. The tension when you rest without guilt, that's the old program begging to be reinstalled. Don't reinstall it. Sit in the discomfort. Let the code crash. That space, the gap between the old reflex and the new response, is where real power is found. Eventually, something shifts. You stop freezing when challenged. You stop apologizing for your desires. You stop replaying old conversations in your mind, hoping for different endings. Because you're no longer stuck in the loop. You've become the glitch. You've disrupted the signal. You've sent new commands. People will notice. Not always with words, but they'll feel it. Your presence will carry new energy. Opportunities will respond differently. Even your environment may start to reflect new possibilities. That's not luck. That's the system adapting to your new broadcast. You are no longer reacting to the code. You are reshaping it. And now you're ready to do something even more powerful. Not just disrupt, but upgrade. Because you weren't just meant to escape the loop. You were meant to redesign the entire interface, to operate at the frequency of creation, not survival. Next, you'll learn how to align your internal frequency with the role of the conscious creator. How to install a new energetic baseline that turns your life into a direct expression of your highest code. You've disrupted the pattern. You've challenged the loop. You've acted in ways your old code never permitted. Now comes the real shift, the upgrade. Because your goal isn't just to stop reacting to the system. Your goal is to become the system's designer. This means leaving behind the identity shaped by survival and stepping fully into the frequency of creation. Creation isn't about effort. It's not about grinding harder or pushing past limits. Creation is about coherence, aligning your internal state with the version of reality you want to experience, then allowing that alignment to reconfigure your outer world. This is not philosophy. It's physics. When your energy shifts, your outcomes shift. Not because of luck, but because the quantum field mirrors your dominant signal. So what does it mean to operate from the creator frequency? It means making choices based on vision, not on fear. It means speaking from clarity, not from defensiveness. It means acting as if the new code is already real, because energetically, it is. You've already seen how symbols, journaling, and intentional behavior rewrite the internal system. Now it's time to embed those upgrades into your energetic baseline. Start with this principle: your reality always reflects your dominant frequency. Not your wish, not your momentary inspiration, your consistent energetic output. So if your mind is rehearsing fear 80% of the day and visualizing success 20% of the day, the field reflects fear. If your actions are based in avoidance more than intention, the system calibrates to avoidance. This isn't judgment. It's awareness. You can't fake frequency. You have to become it. To begin, take inventory, not of your habits, of your emotional set point. Ask yourself, what's the emotional tone I carry most of the time? What beliefs do I rehearse automatically? When things feel uncertain, where does my mind go? Do I respond with curiosity or control? Now choose a new baseline, not something aspirational, something available, something that feels just one layer above your current default. Maybe it's peace instead of anxiety, confidence instead of caution, presence instead of escape. Identify it, name it, declare it as your new operational frequency. Now code it in. Step 1. Create a command phrase. This is a line that reorients your system every time the old code reactivates. Examples: I move from presence. I lead with clarity. I speak from alignment. I create with ease. Say it daily. Say it often. Say it especially when the system tries to regress. Step 2. Ritualize your alignment. Every morning, before the noise of the world enters, claim your state. Sit in stillness. Feel the chosen frequency in your body. Breathe into it. Visualize yourself moving through the day from that state. Speak your command phrase aloud. This is not just mindset. It's signal calibration. Step 3. Match the action to the signal. Don't just think from the new frequency. Act from it. Ask, what would someone at this frequency do next? How would they respond to this message? How would they handle this choice? Then do that. Immediately. Not perfectly, authentically. The field responds to coherence. Thought, emotion, and action in alignment. That's when results accelerate. That's when manifestation becomes motion. Here's something deeper. Every time you hold the new frequency through discomfort, you reinforce the code. You're proving to your system that it's safe to operate differently. That fear doesn't get to dictate the signal anymore. This is how confidence grows. Not from waiting for proof, but from becoming the proof. And over time, the evidence builds. You make better decisions. You attract clearer connections. You experience more synchronicities. Life stops feeling like resistance and starts feeling like response. Because you've stopped transmitting chaos. You've started transmitting clarity. You don't wait for the world to change. You show the world who you are now. not in arrogance. In alignment. This is the creator frequency. It's not a place you reach. It's a state you practice. The more you live from it, the less room there is for the old code to survive. It doesn't vanish, it just stops receiving energy. And what isn't fed, fades. Now, the system will still test you. That's part of the process. Moments will come that tempt you to collapse, to shrink, to reboot the old identity. But now you recognize the pattern. You remember the signal. You recenter. And you speak the command. I write the code now. You've risen above the glitch. You've upgraded your baseline. And now you must protect it. Because old energy doesn't disappear quietly. It returns disguised as old friends, old habits, old stories. So next, you'll learn how to guard your new frequency. How to keep the code clean. How to prevent old scripts from sneaking back in through unconscious influence. Because it's not just about rewriting the program. It's about defending it. You've rewritten the code. You've activated a new frequency. You've taken the role of the conscious programmer. But just like any evolving system, your reality is still vulnerable to external inputs, old patterns, familiar environments, and unconscious influences that carry traces of the past code. This isn't sabotage. This is system maintenance. Because even one line of outdated belief repeated enough times, spoken by others, absorbed through media, reinforced through repetition, can begin to reinfect the operating system you worked so hard to clean. Guarding your new code isn't about paranoia. It's about precision. You must treat your reality like a frequency-sensitive device, because that's what it is. Your thoughts, your space, your interactions, they're not just experiences. They're data streams. They influence the system, constantly. So the question becomes, what inputs are you allowing? Start here. Audit your environment. What voices are closest to you? Not just physically, but energetically. Who do you speak to the most? Who do you listen to? Who do you emotionally absorb without realizing it? Every voice carries a frequency. Every conversation installs or reinforces a pattern. Some people will speak the old code fluently. Be realistic. That's just how life is. Don't get your hopes up. You always do this. That's not possible. They may not mean harm, but they speak from their programming. And if you're not vigilant, their code becomes your background noise. Don't just listen for what's being said. Listen for the tone, the energy, the subtle beliefs underneath the words. When someone speaks from scarcity, fear, guilt, or control, pause. Ask yourself, do I want this input shaping my signal? If not, protect your field. You don't have to cut people off, but you must manage access. Not out of judgment, but out of energetic hygiene. This brings us to the concept of the firewall. Just like a digital system needs boundaries to keep out unwanted code, your consciousness needs filters to protect against regression. Here's how to build it. Step 1. Create an energetic firewall symbol, something you associate with clarity, protection, and discernment. Could be a glowing circle, a geometric shield, a wall of light. Choose one and visualize it surrounding your body, especially during interactions that feel heavy or off-center. Step 2. Set intention before exposure. Before stepping into any group, conversation, or platform, pause and declare your command phrase. I hold my frequency. I filter what I allow. My code is protected. This sounds simple. It's not. It's quantum boundary setting, and it's highly effective. Step 3. Cleanse your system daily. Just like you clear your mind or your home, clear your energetic field. After a long day, pause. Breathe deeply. Visualize all external code detaching and dissolving. Repeat mentally, I release what's not mine. I return to my signal. I clear and reset. Then, re-anchor your chosen frequency. Return to your symbol. Speak your upgraded code aloud. This resets the field. Next, pay attention to the subtle ways reinfection tries to sneak in. Not through big events, but through tiny compromises. The moment you say yes out of guilt instead of alignment. The scroll through content that floods you with fear. The hesitation when you feel joy, waiting for the shoe to drop. the inner voice that still mimics the tone of a parent or authority figure from your past. These are all hooks, small lines of code trying to reestablish old dominance. Catch them, interrupt them, replace them. This practice is relentless, but it's freeing. Because every time you don't let the old pattern back in, you strengthen the new one. You prove to the system that the new code isn't a temporary patch. It's the permanent program. Here's something powerful to remember. You're not responsible for other people's code. You're not required to fix, convince, or carry anyone who insists on staying inside their old loop. Your job is not to be understood. Your job is to stay clear. When your frequency rises, not everyone will come with you. Some will resist. Some will question. Some will project. That's okay. Clarity is not cruelty. Alignment is not arrogance. Discernment is not rejection. It's protection of the signal you worked so hard to reclaim. And finally, pay attention to the feedback loop. Your life will start reflecting your dominant vibration faster than ever. Situations that no longer match your code will dissolve. New opportunities will appear. People will shift, some out of your orbit, others into it. When this happens, don't doubt it. Don't try to rescue the old code. Don't fear the new. Recognize the truth. The system is responding to your broadcast. In real time, you've moved from being influenced by the simulation to being the influence within it. And now, as the old illusion falls away, you're ready to receive the final message. Not about escaping the system, but about realizing that it was never real to begin with. What if the greatest freedom isn't in breaking the simulation, but in waking up inside it? You've tracked the code. You've seen how it was embedded. You've broken the loop, reprogrammed the script, upgraded your frequency, and guarded your field. You've taken your life off autopilot. Now comes the most important realization of all. There is no simulation to escape. Because what you called the simulation was never a trap, it was a mirror. A mirror reflecting every belief you carried, every identity you inherited, every expectation you repeated. It was never holding you prisoner. It was waiting for your instruction. The simulation was you projected. And that means the escape you've been searching for was never out there. It was in here. In the shift from reaction to creation. From confusion to clarity. From code run to code writer. So many people chase awakening by trying to tear down the illusion. But true awakening doesn't destroy the system. It reveals it. And once you see it for what it is, a malleable construct built by thought, emotion, and belief, you stop running from it. You begin to master it. You look around and realize, this isn't random. This isn't fate. This isn't a punishment. This is feedback. This is your signal. This is your code made visible. And now that you know how to change it, you realize you're not stuck in the simulation, you're lucid inside it. And that changes everything. You don't just react to life. You reshape it. You adjust the emotional tone of your relationships, not by fixing others, but by adjusting your frequency. You shift your financial experience, not by begging the system for more, but by aligning your energy with abundance and acting from that truth. You stop chasing external permission, because you realize the field only responds to internal coherence. When your thoughts, words, and actions speak the same code, one that reflects your chosen reality, the simulation stops glitching. It starts synchronizing. You wake up in the middle of the game and start rewriting the map. You stop avoiding challenges and start using them as power-ups. You stop fearing the unknown and start coding the future like a designer inside a digital landscape. That's not fantasy. That's sovereignty. You are not an observer. You are not a victim. You are not even a character. You are the coder. You are the dreamer aware of the dream. You are the frequency shaping the form. This is the real escape, not from life but into it. Not from illusion but through it. Until the illusion bends to your will, because you finally remembered who you are. There will be days you forget. Moments you slip back into the old patterns. The system will try to pull you back into sleep. That's natural. But now you'll catch it faster. You'll see the code. You'll hear the old voice. You'll pause and choose something new. That's all mastery is. Not perfection. Not immunity. Choice. Repeated. Embodied. Lived. And the more you choose from clarity, the more the system adapts to reflect your upgraded state. You'll start noticing how the things that used to trigger you lose their grip, how the doors that once felt closed begin to open, how the people who enter your space reflect a version of you you once only imagined. You're no longer playing the game on default settings. You've unlocked the editor mode. And from here, you don't just win, you design. So here is your final command. No more waiting. No more hoping. No more running the same loop expecting a new result. Speak it. I write the code now. I live lucid. I create from clarity. This reality is mine to shape, not as a fantasy, as a practice, because you don't escape the simulation by breaking it. You escape by mastering it. Thank you for watching. Now go live like the system already changed, because it has. You changed it.